Accra gets busy on this frequency. 92.7 3 FM.
Hello, good evening, welcome. This is Hot Edition. We're live from a news about Desawe Kanda. Also live on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and beyond. We're live on W 93.5 in Wa and beyond. Remember, we're also streaming live at 3FM 927 on Facebook and also on X. Coming up this evening here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. President John Mahama assents to a number of bills scrapping e-levy and the betting tax, amongst others. This evening, we'll interrogate these major policy shifts and the implications for the country's finances. Stay with us here on Hot Edition. Also, government set in motion plans to privatize Electricity Company of Ghana, ECG, and NEDCO, that's a Northern Electricity Development Company. This evening, we'll tell you which three options are available to government going into this. Also, a search party at the collapse site of Yao Nkwanta near Mpasetian in the Ashanti region closes operation after several hours to locate trapped miners. We've got details for you here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7 and still on illegal mining. Enchi Court makes U-turn, says ruling on the illegal mining and the laws were wrong in law. Stay with us. We'll tell you what is being celebrated as a win on the fight against illegal mining by the coalition against illegal mining Ghana. Stay with us. Details of this plus the latest in business and sports over the next 1 hour 30 minutes here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7, also on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and on W 93.5 in Wa and beyond. For now, settle for a summary of the news. Safua Buahen is here.
Thank you, Alfred, and welcome to the news summary segment. Let's settle for the details now. Then President John Dramani Mahama has assented to a number of legislative bills abolishing several taxes, including the electronic transfer levy, e-levy, betting tax and emissions tax. While in opposition, the NDC, led by then flag bearer, promised to abolish some taxes to give relief to Ghanaians. At a short ceremony at the seat of government, the president delivered on yet again a promise he made. Away from that, Imani Africa has raised concerns over the disappearance of 1,300 containers of Electricity Company of Ghana ECG equipment, warning that delays in power supply improvements could lead to more frequent outages for businesses and households. The think tank questions ECG's procurement and inventory management as budget constraints further threaten energy reliability. Also, President John Dramani Mahama has responded to allegations of suspicious flights arriving in Ghana, directing a thorough investigation into claims of drug trafficking and money laundering. This follows concerns raised by the minority in Parliament regarding Ghana's security. And to allow story now, thousands of people marched countrywide toward in support of Little Cheche. The 7-year-old was raped last year, allegedly on school property at Bergview College Independent School in the Eastern Cape of South Africa. And this brings us to the end of the summary of the news. And over to you, Alfred.
Safwa, thank you very much. Just more news on 3news.com. Make some time and visit 3news.com. This is Hot Edition. Let's get into the details of the stories right now here on Hot Edition. And search party at the collapse site of the Yao Nkwanta near let's say in Mpasetian in the Ashanti region has closed operations after several hours to locate trapped miners. Now, from what we're hearing right now, the search efforts have come to an end, and unfortunately, some of the families are wailing because they could not have their families' bodies to at least pay their last respects. Wailing families there. William Evans Income has reporting that the search team have not shown any interest in continuing the operation as the death toll remains at 2 as we speak, and is joining us on the telephone right now. William, sad scenes at this disaster site, is it not, with the search party now closing their work?
Well, absolutely, it is sad, but they were just overwhelmed by the magnitude of work. So, they needed some sophisticated equipment, if I should put it that way, to be able to do this particular operation, but that was not in place. So, for instance, all this while they've been asking for excavator to at least help them because they are only using shovel and pickaxe. And we are talking about thick sand, which has caved in. So it's rather slowed their work. They needed to exert more energy, but the outcome wasn't something that they really expected. So some of us are not surprised to hear that they have really halted the operation, and they are not giving an indication as to whether they will continue tomorrow. But we understand that their family wants to engage them. Yesterday, I told you that there's no DCE. So when it comes to decision making, it's kind of become a quagmire. But we are hearing that assembly, possibly the district coordinating director, that is what we are hearing for one of the unit committee members, wants to engage them. And so we don't know whether after engagement tomorrow, they will go back and then continue the operation, or it will not happen at all.
I see. Now, we understand the death toll is still 2 as we speak?
Well, absolutely, 2. Those were the bodies that were recovered yesterday. But the miners are claiming that they can't account for 4 of their colleagues, and they believe that they probably might have been trapped under the thick sand.
But when it comes to this particular area, what do we know about this area? Is it an area known for illegal mining activities, from what you do know?
Galamsey is more or less like a livelihood to most of the youth there. Forests have been depleted, vegetations have been degraded, name them. It has become their mainstay. And what even makes this whole thing a bit scary is the belief that sometimes it needs some level of sacrifice. Alfred, I can tell you, in one of the holes or one of the pits, I saw something like blood, but I'm unable to say whether it's a human blood or animal blood. And the people there are very, very economical with information. Information is very expensive when it comes to the kind of activity that they engage. Of course, we've always become more or less like enemies to them. They don't want to see us because anytime we come around, we end up exposing the activities to the outside world. So they really don't want to see us, and they also don't want to give us any information. So anything that we see is just mere observation and the things that we've heard. And then the exposition that we also come across whenever we are filing such report from illegal mining sites.
I see, but which persons constituted or institutions constituted the search party? Because yesterday, by the videos we saw at the disaster site, we saw just family members, people in the community rushing to rescue these miners who had been trapped under this collapsed pit. Who exactly were involved in the rescue effort?
So the locals, many of them are miners. They were there when the incident happened, and they have been telling, people that they still believe that they still suspect that some of their colleagues are trapped in there. So most of them are miners. Few are NADMO workers who were also helping out and also taking some level of data.
I see. And so if you talk about engagement that the government representative there intends to engage, is it with these people in the community who are engaged in the rescue effort?
So they are going to engage the miners who have been part of the tech team. So yes, those are the people that the government is going to engage, the authority is going to engage at the local level.
William, I appreciate you for this. Thank you so much. William Evans Inkum, as always, is our Northern Bureau Chief and our Chief Ashanti Regional Correspondent, giving us details there as you're hearing. Now, the search party at the site of the collapsed mining pit at Iao Nkwanta near Mpasetia has closed their operations with a zero recovery on earlier today. And what we do know is that incident that happened yesterday trapped a number of miners and that there's collapsed pit. William Evans Inkum giving us those details there. But there's also a development related to matters of illegal mining because the Enchi District Court in the Western North region has reversed its earlier ruling on the release of mining equipment seized from illegal miners within the Boyne Forest Reserve. Now, the court, presided over by His Worship Lawrence Bueno Boy, ruled earlier today that its initial order was erroneous and lacked jurisdiction. The case involving 6 defendants, 4 of whom are absent and 2 declared at large, centers on illegal mining activities commonly referred to as galamsey. The court acknowledged that its earlier decision on March 28, 2025 to release 2 Leo John excavators and other mining equipment to their owners for evacuation and relocation was wrong in law. Upon reviewing the fact and applicable mining laws, the court declared its previous order null and void. Now, the court exercised its inherent powers to set aside the previous ruling and issued a fresh order. Under the new directive, which we have a copy of, the court ordered the retrieval of the 2 excavators and other mining equipment. These assets are to be handed over to the Enchi Forest Commission for safekeeping until the proper forum with jurisdiction determines the case. The police, if you recall, and the Forestry Commission have been tasked with tracing, locating, and intercepting the equipment to ensure compliance with the court's new order. Citing legal precedents such as Moshi versus Bejina and Atokwashi versus Opoti, the court emphasized its authority to correct its own errors, to uphold justice and maintain the integrity of the judicial process. But let's get some reactions to this, because this has come as some good news for the coalition, that's the Ghana Coalition Against Illegal Mining. Engineer Dr. Ken Ashigbe is one of the conveners.
Says that radio gets results, and the fact that the advocacy of the media works. But it raises very fundamental questions, really great questions. So the question, if you read a ruling that was given initially by the judge, it tells you that an application, an affidavit might have been filed. The question you ask, was that served on the prosecution? Was that served on the police? And then in the ruling, you don't get any mention of the prosecutor. So it will be important for the IGP to investigate whether this was served on the prosecutor, whether the prosecutor was in court or not. And the question you would want to ask, reading this second ruling that have vacated the very bad ruling that the judge did. You know, the case was even filed in the court with wrong jurisdiction. The Minerals and Mining Act gives the High Court the jurisdiction over these cases. So the question you ask is that why was the case first filed even in a wrong court? And how is it that this judge is telling us that he did not know about the Minerals and Mining Act? He did not know about the airline that talks about the tracking of excavators and all of that, and did not know that if a crime is committed, you would want to keep the exhibit with the police before the case is heard. So this thing requires investigations by the Chief Justice on the conduct of this judge, this magistrate, and also an investigation on the conduct of the police.
As Engineer Dr. Ken Ashigbe there, the convener of the Ghana Coalition Against Illegal Mining. Away from matters of Galamsey, President John Dramani Mahama has assented to a number of legislative bills abolishing several taxes, including the electronic transfer levy, that's the controversial e-levy, betting tax, and emissions tax. While in opposition, the NDC, led by the flag bearer and now President John Dramani Mahama, promised to abolish some taxes to give relief to Ghanaians. At a short ceremony at the seat of government, the president delivered yet again a promise he made. Let's now walk you through the number of bills that were accented into law today, and Michael Obodo. So the three business here at TV3 and on 3FM 92.7 join me in the studio right now. Michael, just run us through the list of bills accented into law today by the president earlier today.
So top on the list is, I guess, arguably the most popular bill ever introduced in this country. By some, that's the electronic transfer levy. The one bill that both parties, major political parties, agreed to scrap once they assume office or attain power. And John Dramani Mahama, effective today, has signed the e-levy repeal bill. So effectively, e-levy ceases to exist in the books of the country. The emissions levy repeal bill has also been accented to the betting tax, value-added tax amendment bill, income tax amendment bill, public financial management amendment bill, growth and sustainability Levy Act, the earmarked funds capping and realignment bill, the gold board bill, energy sector levy act, and the petroleum revenue amendment bill. So a quite tall list, but it just shows you that the president has been very busy today assenting to all of these bills. So we know that the e-levy, like I said from the beginning, a very controversial one. We know government to be losing some 2 billion cedis with the scrapping of that bill. The emissions levy also received some uproar because people were arguing that why is the government deciding to charge taxes in the name of trying to clean up the air and not giving enough motivation for people to switch to other greener options. So the emissions levy is also going off. There's the betting tax that a lot of the youth had kicked against, arguing that why must you tax me my wins if you don't compensate me for my loss. There's the value added tax amendment bill also on the VAT on insurance that also has been repealed. It's a big one too for the insurance industry because it means the insurance will be relatively cheaper without that tax in place. There's the income tax amendment bill, which also has the betting tax within it in terms of the earnings, and then also a percentage was charged also on gold purchases from small-scale miners. Then there's the public financial management amendment bill. The other one also that made a lot of headways after it was announced, the growth and sustainability levy act. You know, that act in the bill, the government sought to tax the extractive sector more, increase the rate from 1% to 3% for the extractive sector. So persons in the mining industry will have to pay about 3% higher than their counterparts in the banking and other sectors who are also charged the growth and sustainability levy. There's the earmarked funds capping, and then also the gold board also bill basically legitimizing the gold board, and then the energy sector levy and the petroleum levy. So basically these are the levies that the president has officially signed into law.
And if you look at the increase in that 1% to 3% growth and sustainability levy act for the mining sector, you've been engaging the Ghana Chamber of Mines. They are not too excited about this decision. Why is that?
So basically this is going to increase their cost of operations basically because it means that their tax elements, their tax expenditures are going to go up. They argue that they think that their times are quite tough, so increasing the levy at this point is not the best for them. However, they say that per their engagements with government has managed to get some level of buy-in for them, arguing that these are tough times and the government needs the revenue to run the country. So their efforts to get a review didn't work out, but they say that they are open to continue to support government's efforts to revamp the economy. So basically that.
Great stuff. Thank you so much, Michael Obodo. And there's going to be more of this on the business news later this evening, and then also on News 360 at 7 p.m. So make a date with the team with the details there. And Dr. George Domfe is a senior lecturer, economics department, University of Ghana, Legon. And Professor John Gachi is the Dean of the University of Cape Coast Business School, joining me on Zoom and on telephone, respectively. Gentlemen, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Good evening, my brother.
Hello, Dr. John Domfe, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Good evening.
Great. Thank you so much for joining us. And well, as promised, has been delivered today. The president has accented to these bills to become law. The e-levy will be off our books, effective tomorrow. From what we understand, the GRA is going to kickstart these processes. And then also, from what we do know, the emissions tax, there was really no implementation of that tax because the DVLA, the collection agency, did not calibrate its systems to effect that tax. So there's no monies as yet. Now, from your own reading, there's certainly this was supposed to happen. E-levy, from the way things were playing out, a good decision, you would say?
Alfred, let me thank you and say very good evening to our dear listeners. Yes, you can look at it from two perspectives. Politically, I think it is a good decision. Many have said it was a bad levy, and some have even said that was the main reason why 2022 Ghanaians were struggling. And we all admit things were really very bad. 2022, we were hit hard by the global economic turmoil. It was during the heat of this, and the government trying to, address the problem, and they had to resort to, bringing on board these taxes so we could mobilize more revenue. Politically, I think it didn't give good name to the then government, and so NDC then in opposition took advantage to promise Ghanaians that they will scrap it if they have the opportunity to be voted into power. And true to their words, they have done that. So let me commend the president for, not disappointing the people. He promised to scrap it. He has done it. And so that's a very big thing when it comes to the political game. Again, I must say that another one that has also gone along with it is the emission tax. And it is important that we tell Ghanaians that even though in law it was there, this was never implemented. It is just like the 10% withholding tax on lottery winnings that was announced in the budget that is going to be scrapped. Again, that was also in the law, but it was never, implemented. And so now that he has scrapped them, good for Ghana. Everybody is going to be happy because I think Ghanaians, we are very happy not to even pay taxes. And I've always gone back to our history. When at the time Rawlings was introducing VAT, many stood against it. I'm telling you, if VAT had not been introduced at that time, and today we are still doing sales tax, I don't know where this country would have been. So it was a very good decision, but people never liked it. And here we are today, VAT has been very helpful. But this exercise, Alfred, the most important thing that I would look at it is that MDC and MPP, which of these two parties love taxes? Do they hate taxes? Do they love taxes? Sometimes I get confused because we saw what happened in 2015 April when we had to subscribe to IMF extended credit facility when we were in danger like we were in 2022. Immediately, government had to introduce so many taxes. Taxes on condom, KIE taxes, so many of them. So 2017, Ken Uforiata had to scrap so many of these taxes. So the very things that we had 2017, at that time they called them, they had named that they called them nuisance taxes. Almost about 17 of them, either they were scrapped or their rates were reduced. That was what we saw in 2017. And then later in years, we came back to the problem we found ourselves in 2015. And now a new government that has scrapped taxes and had become very popular now had to introduce taxes. And then the other one that had introduced more 2015 now took a different position, the same position MPP took in 2015. And so sometimes I get confused. Why are we not consistent? If we think tax is not good, let's find ways. How do we then rake in more revenue? Because I'm telling you, this e-levy, I wish the two political parties I put their heads together to maybe work on it and implement it. Maybe reduce the rate from 1% it is today to about 0.2 or 0.3, anything, because it has a future. E-levy has a future, and I have said that it will come again. It may be in a different form. It has a future. Many transactions are taking place electronically. And that's how every government does their things. Ghana today, the tax to GDP, GDP, tax to GDP ratio is very low. It hovers around 13.9%. And the West African, the sub-regional average is 18%. So we are not even doing up to the sub-regional average. We are not doing much. And the main problem is that those who have to pay tax, the tax burden is so much on them. They are paying so much and so many are not paying. But if you look at e-levy, it has a different, even though it may have its own problem. The good thing about it is that it was broader compared to many other taxes. So many people were paying an e-levy, unlike some of the existing taxes where only few people pay. And so I would have wished that the government, instead of scrapping it, would have looked at the rate, bring it down to about 5%, or at best, now I hear the first 100 cedis transaction doesn't attract e-levy. Maybe we could have pushed it to 500 so that the poor will be protected in that situation. But scrapping it off when we still, as a country, we are still struggling with revenue mobilization, I think politically, yes, you scored a point, but economically, I don't think that's the way to go.
I see. Prof. I see, just here, bring you in. And on that point that Dr. George Dunfer ended on, that this may have just been good ticking the box politically, but in his view, economically, the decision to scrap a number of all of these taxes and also review a couple of them may not be the way to go. Is that right?
Well, it depends on how you're looking at all these things. I think the idea is that you listen to the business environment, you listen to households, and you realize that they were not happy about certain taxes because it places some burden on them. Those burdens are inimical to the business processes, and they believe that when those taxes are removed, then the business environment will be more flexible, more friendly, and will be more productive in the sense that more people will now be adhering to the tax by complying. And increased compliance means increased revenue, so to say. So you can say that what has been done is of no benefit to the economy, is of immense benefit to the economy. It frees the business environment to engage in their businesses more friendly and more productively. So from that perspective, it is the right thing to do. And it's also an indication that when politicians are making promises which they have looked at from various point of view and have been validated before they come out to tell the people, it's a serious business and they take it seriously. In fact, everybody knows that when they say they are going to remove taxes, people will be saying that, they are just going to deceive us. They can't do it because the revenue is very important for them. But this is a proof that when you make promise, which you have actually passed through the mill, you have to you have to fulfill it to get the benefit that the economy ought to get and the benefit that the people ought to get. It's therefore not true that because we are in need of revenue, we should allow revenue measures to choke and burden the people of when they want to pay taxes and engage in business activities.
I see, but how will these reforms and the taxes scrapped reduce the tax burden on citizens and essentially stimulate economic activity?
Well, you are paying VAT, which has a component of levies and other charges. Before, in some cases, before the VAT is applied, is definitely taking more from the people, and that's where the burden comes from. So, if you now take those levies and the rest, and the VAT is left to be applied, definitely they are not going to pay less taxes to the Republic and then become more productive in the process. So that is what it means. And with time, that is supposed to engineer more revenue mobilization through compliance and other flexibility that have been brought into the tax calibration.
One of the concerns,
yes. When you are dealing with revenue mobilization, it is not just a linear equation that you look at it that, okay, this revenue is what we are getting from this tax. So when we take it, then we lose this amount of money. So the best approach is that let the people continue to suffer, let the businesses continue to suffer, let the business continue to be choked. I do not think that is the way you manage your fiscal situation. And we are also, so to say, appreciative of the fact that we are seeing removal of taxes, which is also complemented by some number of expenditure cut measures that have been implemented. Whether we like it or not, those expenditures are being cut. Whether we like it or not, they will have a very deeper positive impression on our fiscal situation. And then, so when you look at that, you see that it's not just about cutting taxes, but it's also about cutting expenditure, so to bridge the gap as we go along. So those are good approaches that I think that we need to indicate.
I think the other issue is how much we were losing. And Dr. Domfe, here's where I'll bring you in, because that concern appears to have been settled by the finance minister's details of how we're going to make up for the revenue loss as a result of the decision to scrap these taxes, because he's looking at the tax refund account as a way of plugging this revenue loss as a result of the decision to scrap these taxes, and then also the gold board and how much revenue is going to come through when implemented. Does that answer the question and also address the concerns you had about the revenue losses due to these taxes scrapped?
Well, yes, all those things are complementary in nature. Complementary in nature because I talked about the tax cut already. If you reduce your ministries from 30 to 23, you can't tell me that there is no tax cut, revenue cut, expenditure cut in that process. If you reduce your ministers from 123 to 60, and assuming that each ministry is consuming the same amount of money, let's say 500,000 per fiscal year, and you reduce it from 123 to 60, you can't tell me that there is no expenditure cut in the process. There's huge expenditure cut in the process. There's moderation of expenditure activities across board in the country. That is also complementary. Then we also know the tax refund account that have been brought to augment the situation. We also know the reforms that have been made in the gold sector to make gold revenue more productive, so to say. We have also seen some reforms in our fiscal management in general that have been done. So all those things are complementary. And bear in mind that these flexibility that have been brought into the tax front will also be yielding gradually but progressively its fruit of enhancing revenue mobilization. So that is how you look at it.
Right. And Dr. Domfe, the same question to you as to whether the measures as announced in the budget specifically and adequately addresses the concerns that you had about revenue loss due to these taxes scrapped.
Alfred, let me thank you for that question. But before I I do. Would you permit me to respond to some of the issues my friend have put out there that I think I'm struggling to understand as a student of taxes? It's very strange to hear him say that the scrapping is going to rather boost revenue mobilization. You know what has been a problem to Africa and most of the small open market economies have been our reliance on indirect taxes. That's why in the advanced democracies they depend so much on direct taxes. And that to me is a way to go. Currently, as I speak with you, with over 40 million Ghanaians working, only about 2.5 million pay direct taxes, which is one of the biggest reasons why there's that problem when it comes to revenue mobilization. And so for him to link the scrapping to, excessive mobilization of resources, I think I'm struggling to see, the literature or a theory that, I don't think, I heard him right.
I do not think that
right,
you listen to
maybe
me very
it's not
well.
convincing me enough.
That I use the word complementary. I do not say that those measures are all enough to address the situation you are talking about. So please, if you want to quote me rightly,
please. When I hear people talk about expenditure cut, we have to be very careful. I think it's too early to rejoice over the so-called expenditure cuts. If you look at 2024 budget, the total expenditure was 227 billion Ghana cedis. After the media review, they slashed it downwards to 217, billion, right? At the end of the day, they ended up spending 279 billion. And so if you say as a government, on commitment basis, I should say, on commitment basis, they ended up spending 279 billion. And now the government has reduced it to 267. This is a promise. And if you look at last year's budget, it was nowhere near, even on commitment basis, it was nowhere near 269. But they ended up spending 279. So if you sit here to say that because some ministries have been scribed, you have cut expenditure, please, let us be careful. We don't put these things out there. We are waiting to hear the budget read to us next year. And maybe by November, the third quarter, we would have heard what would have happened. Because if I look at what is happening, I don't see any expenditure cuts. It's just really alarming. Some of the when expenditure at this ministry or this sector is going up, this one is going down. So some ministries have suffered huge expenditure cuts, but others have unnecessarily also seen huge budget allocations. And so we have to be very careful when we are talking about these things. And Alfred, going back to the main question, is the scrapping going to hurt the economy? I don't think so, because already we're not getting so much. And I must say that GRA has also been doing very well. Last year, we were looking forward for them to rake in total revenue of 172 billion Ghana cedis. They ended up exceeding their target, and this is one of the good news we don't normally hear. Mostly, GRA comes to tell us that they couldn't meet their revenue targets, and so they're already on point, doing very well. And talking about that, e-levy wasn't raking in so much, betting tax wasn't raking in so much, and so if you take it out today, it will not hurt the basket so much. But my concern was that it has a future, because if you look at the number of people who pay it, it was more broad-based compared to most of the prevailing taxes that only few people pay, and the tax burden is always on few people. My concern had been that if we had taken time to study the whole situation and maybe work on it in such a way that it wouldn't impact so much on the poor. Because if you are talking about the poor that we are using the name poor in scrapping this revenue, then I think the one on the import levy, to me, should have been scrapped. Because today, most of what we eat, we drink, we wear, we import, right? And so anything that is on import comes back to hurt the household. And so if you were out there and you want to protect the poor, one way to do it was also scrap the import levy. Why do you leave an import levy there and you come back to tell me that you have scrapped an e-levy, I should clap for you? No, I would have even thought that the import levy is rather the one that is affecting all households. Seriously. I mean, it's if e-levy is bad, if you look at it, if it is bad, then import levy, that particular one should also, should also be looked at, my brother.
Well, gentlemen, appreciate your time on this matter, but all is said and done. These taxes have been scrapped, others modified, and, as it were, reviewed and accented into law. Implementation begins in the coming days. I'm sure in the next 6 months or maybe a year after, we will be here again to review the impact analysis of this particular decision. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great. And Professor John Gachi is the Dean of the University of Cape Coast Business School. Also, Dr. George Domfe is a Senior Lecturer, University of Ghana, Economics Department, joining us on Zoom. Thank you very much. But away from the issues of the decisions as made by the President, accenting these bills into law, the entity concession, multiple lease, and service franchise, these are the options the Mahama government must choose from on its plan to privatize the operations of the Electricity Company of Ghana and the Northern Electricity Development Company, NEDCO. It follows the submission of the final report by the 7-member committee tasked with finding the most efficient means to allow for private sector participation. Mawana Egbeta has the details of the story.
Over the last 2 months, the committee met with over 280 individuals and up to 35 institutions, all aimed at arriving at the best possible path to private sector participation in Ghana's energy distribution mix. The committee's investigative work will reveal teething challenges within ECG's operation, some of which have become subject of public discourse.
2 of those challenges have to do with the administrative setup of ECG. 3 of them have to do with operational issues. And another 3 have nothing to do with ECG at all. They are outside ECG's control. And the last one, the 9th one, is half and half. Now, some of those internal administrative things are to do with governance and management. I mean, it is mild to say that there's a problem with the governance and management at ECG.
On privatization, 3 modules have been offered to government, from which it must make a decision.
An outright concession for the entire ECG. So that will be very similar to what was tried in 2019. Yes. The PDS is along that line. The other one is to break the ECG down into various sections, 4 or 5 units, and let each operate or award each to a private company to lead the operation. That is the option B that we are talking about. Then there's an option C. The option C focuses on the customer experience and how to improve the service to the customer and make sure that the collections and everything are up to speed.
Energy Minister pledged swift action on the report while insisting on transparency in the process.
The next step from here will be to do a position paper to Cabinet for the entire government to consider and approve the option that we will be pursuing, following which we would establish a project implementation committee. We would also have to get a transaction advisor, make this process as transparent and open as possible, with emphasis on local content and participation. And so we encourage everyone to support us and to ensure that we deal with the challenges confronting the distribution sector.
Some committee members are expected to as well contribute to the implementation process once Cabinet approves of the way forward.
So that's a report by my colleague Eric Mawana Egbeta, who sat through this press conference by the Energy Minister, John Janabo, earlier today. Now, let's go on to the telephone, because one man who indeed has been part of this entire conversation and following the process as it unfolds is Kwame Jantra. He's a private legal practitioner and also an expert in the energy sector in this country, joining us right now. I thank you so much, Mr. Jantra, for joining us here on Hot Edition.
Good morning, Alfred. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. It's always good to talk to you.
Good evening to your listeners.
Great. Now, first off, you've heard it. The minister says in the coming days there's going to be a position paper that he will present to cabinet, and a project implementation committee is going to be put in place with the three options on the table: entity concession, multiple lease, service franchise. Which one are you going to go for?
Look, my major interest is the fact that local content should play a huge role. The situation with capital flight can be very difficult for us. ECG needs every penny. And for me, it's got to do with revenue collection. Number two, it's got to do with making sure that the management of ECG are well equipped to handle the company. And three, political interference should be put aside and leave ECG to run, including NEDCO. NEDCO has huge debt, and ECG and NEDCO have to be able to service Ghanaians for electricity. Electricity is not a privilege. Electricity is a right because the people pay for it. The other side of the coin that needs to be looked at very well is the Ghanaian. For the Ghanaian to understand where ECG is, for Ghanaian to understand what electricity means to the country today, and for Ghanaians to be able to pay their bills and stop the theft of electricity. Look, electricity is now the life wire of any country. Power, the life wire. Without power, there is no country. And so it is important that Ghanaians understand what it takes and what it needs to maintain our electricity infrastructure. Any of the three, if we find any of the three would help in terms of the things that I have mentioned, then let's go for it. I don't agree to wholesale privatization of ECG. No, I don't believe that. Why? I'm not for that because ECG has a lot of infrastructure which you don't want it to be halved into little bits. By the time you realize there's only one bit sitting, and we don't want that. I think it was either the IMF or World Bank who broke us up. Because once upon a time, we used to be one. DRA, GRIPCO, ECG used to be one unit and one powerful unit. They broke us up, and in breaking us up, allowed personal interest to take in. And when I mean personal interest, you then got foreign companies coming in like the IPP, and they then came in to compete. We need a situation. I haven't seen in any country where its electricity infrastructure is broken the way Ghana is broken. And it is something we need to look at. But first of all, we need to get revenue into the coffers of ECG. And we need ECG to have KPIs that they would be able to handle. Apart from that, the procurement process of ECG should also be looked at. Because if you look at what we're seeing with regards to the multiple containers of numbers that were ordered, where some have even been pilfered, is a huge challenge for us. Huge challenge. So let's take it step by step. Let's start with the revenue, getting the revenue in. Let's start making sure that we can maintain the infrastructure and let Ghanaians be aware that they use the service, they have to pay for the service. And anybody who doesn't pay for the service, the law should work. It's straightforward. There's no ifs or buts. The laws should work. If you're building a house and you know you don't have the wherewithal to do what? To put electricity in, then maybe if the house is built, go for renewable energy. Put solar on your roof and generate your own electricity. The net metering, that one we can discuss with ECG later. but we need the revenue to keep ECG afloat.
And if you talk about, for instance, stopping the theft, which is, also one of the means ECG loses revenue, beyond this moral suasion that you just did, appealing to Ghanaians to pay for the power that we consume, obviously some persons or recalcitrant would not heed to this moral suasion. What measures do you expect to be put in place to make stealing power an expensive venture?
The law should work. Alfred, the laws should work. We are too relaxed in enforcing and implementing the law. We have laws for theft. And if you steal electricity, the laws should work. ECG workers themselves should be disciplined enough to know that the job they are doing is what is paying their daily salary, paying their daily wage. So they should treat it like their own. And anybody who trespasses, does anything untoward against ECG, should be taken up. It's simple. We tend to pussyfoot around people who do illegal things. And then the illegal things now become legal. And then it hurts our economy. And then people now complain about government. Oh, government isn't doing this, government isn't doing that. Forgetting that they are part and parcel of the problem. Those doing it. And it has to stop. It has to stop. The laws have to work. That's the only way I can see. What else can you do? You come to somebody's house, they're stealing electricity, charge them to court. And the court should be such that when you are charged to court, the penalty is heavy to deter people from doing it. It's simple. I also believe going forward, the renewable side to be looked at. We should look at how we move conventional electricity from residential into business, and then renewable gets into residential well enough. Because if we take that line, within the next 10 to 15 years, you would find that every house that is built has a solar panel. It should be a policy of government now that from this day on, any house that is being built, make sure you have a solar panel on your house.
Right. And how about the demand that you make of local content? Public Utilities Workers Union is saying they have the wherewithal to do the work. And so all of these proposals must also be centered on their ability to do it and not outside of them.
Let me ask a question. Have they proven that they can do it? If they've proven that they can do it and they can show us that they can do it, so be it. Let them be part of of it. You just can't talk and not do anything. As they say, talk is cheap. Talk and let's see the action. That is what people want to see. Talk and let's see the action. The fact that you're a union doesn't mean every second you just got to get up and say, I'm a union, so I won't do this, I won't do that. No. There are times when union has to be able to work with government to achieve a certain aim. There are times. Because I don't understand. Today, tariffs that we are paying today, most tariffs, if you compare them to other countries worldwide, our tariffs are nothing. Ghanaians should learn to pay the right tariff. And when paying the right tariff, it now boils down to the economy. If we are running a very good economy where people can earn income to look after themselves, a lot of these challenges won't be there. But a lot of people are unemployed. A lot of people want to use electricity. A lot of people like the comforts of life. And electricity is part and parcel of the comforts of life. And if you do not have an economy that is strong, where your currency is strong, where your currency can be competitive, where your currency can help create jobs, where the private sector is working, how do you compete? So yes, the unions are good, but they should be able to prove to us that they can do it, and they should be able to prove to us that they can also help government to get to where we want to get to. We can't always be firefighting. We can't. There has to be a point where we say, this should stop. Let's work together and see how we get to the end result where all of us are comfortable.
Janswa, appreciate this and thank you so much for your thoughts as always. And this is a conversation we're going to continue having. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Kwame Jantua is an energy expert sharing his thoughts with us. You're still live here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7, also on Kesme 107.1 in Tamale and beyond. We're live on W 93.5. Bismarck Ewusa is standing by with business.
It's the battle of the teams in a 3FM 60-day Fit Start Challenge. Which team will come up tops? Will it be Team Comfort or Team Helen? Will age and tact triumph? Or will youth and energy win? Call or WhatsApp on these numbers: 0532 300 927 or 0532 200 927. Now, to join Team Comfort or Team Helen and enjoy holistic wellness coaching, specialized diet plans, and cooking tutorials, thrilling exercises, challenges, and activities, plus many exciting rewards. 3FM Fit Start is sponsored by Daffy's Health and Beauty, Bill's Microfinance and Ugel Premier, and supported by Blue Skies and the Ghana Medical Association. 3FM Fit Start, your health, your journey, your victory.
Hello, good evening and welcome to the business segment on Hot Edition with me, Bismarck Ewusa. Coming up tonight, new research reveals investor interest in treasury bills expected to decline as tightening measures, bid rejections persist. Thanks for your company. Now to the very first story. Investor appetite for treasury bills is projected to wane in the coming weeks as the government continues to balance demand management with bid rejections, leading to modest auction results. Research from Data Bank suggests that under-subscriptions will persist, exacerbated by the recent Monetary Policy Committee's rate hike to 28% and the liquidity absorption effect of the 273-day bill. The following 3 Business News Desk report has more. Investor demand for treasury bills is expected to decline in the coming weeks as the government sustains its demand management measures and bid rejections. Data Bank research notes that recent undersubscriptions have been compounded by the Bank of Ghana's decision to raise the policy rate by 100 basis points to 28%, along with the liquidity constraints posed by the 273-day bill. For 2 consecutive auctions, bids have fallen short of government targets, with some offers being rejected. Analysts believe this tightening stance may slow the decline in treasury bill yields as institutional participation weakens. Key market watchers say the government's buffer adequacy and the timeline for reopening longer-term bonds will be crucial in determining the near-term trajectory of yields. And that was a 3 Business News Desk report. Meanwhile, activities on the secondary bond market picked up by 10.22% week on week to 999 million cedis last week from 907 million cedis. The February 2027 and February 2031 maturities accounted for 49% of the total volumes traded. Overall, bonds maturing between 2027 and 2030 dominated, capturing 54% of trades at an average yield to maturity of approximately 23%. Moving on, Ghana's annual consumer inflation rate eased to 22.4% in March 2025, a decrease from 23.1% the previous month. According to latest figures from Ghana Statistical Service, the drop is attributed to easing of food price pressures.
Ghana's latest inflation figures indicate a slight moderation in price growth, with food inflation showing a noticeable decline. According to the data, food inflation has cooled to 26.5% in the latest reporting period, down from 28.1% recorded in the previous month. Meanwhile, non-food inflation also experienced a marginal decrease, decelerating to 18.7% from 18.8%. While the overall trend suggests a positive direction towards assessing inflationary pressures, prices remain elevated.
A slowdown in rate of inflation, as year-on-year inflation for the month of February 2025 stood at 23.1%, slowing down by 0.7 percentage points to 22.4% for March 2025. We recorded a 7.8 percentage point difference between food inflation and non-food inflation. In the month of March 2025, we have recorded a much sharper decline in food inflation, which declined by 1.6 percentage points, and a marginal decline in non-food inflation, which declined by 0.1 percentage points between February 2025 and March 2025.
The slight decline in both food and non-food inflation offers a glimmer of hope for consumers facing rising living costs, although sustained efforts are needed to bring inflation further under control.
And that was a report on Ghana's inflation showing signs of moderation at 22.4% with a slight cooling of food prices in March. Now, President John Dramani Mahama has assented to a set of amended bills, including the betting tax, e-levy tax, and emissions tax. The move aligns with the National Democratic Congress's manifesto promise to scrap what it described as burdensome taxes on businesses and individuals. The abolished taxes, particularly the e-levy, had been a major point of contention since its introduction in 2022, with concerns over its impact on mobile money transactions.
This is the Electronic Transfer Levy Repeal Bill. That's the famous e-levy bill. I'll proceed to sign it. Okay, I've just given assent to the repeal of the famous e-levy bill. Now, this is the Income Tax Amendment Bill 2025 to remove withholding tax on winnings from lottery, betting, and games of chance. This is the famous betting tax repeal bill. And so I'll assent to it, 2nd April. Promises delivered.
And that was President John Dramani Mahama assenting to some special bills, including betting tax, e-levy, and emissions levy. And that brings us to the end of Business on Hot Edition with me, Bismarck Ausa. For more business stories, please check out our website, 3news.com.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to the sports segment on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7 with me, Oreku Ampafo. We start off from the Ghana Premier League, where Asante Kotoko maintained their position at the top of the league with a hard-fought 1-0 victory over Berekum Chelsea on Wednesday afternoon at the Baba Yara Sports Stadium. Daniel Ajete, whose powerful strike from outside the box in the 79th minute broke the deadlock against the run of play, was enough to secure all 3 points for the Porcupine Warriors. With a win, Kotoko extend the unbeaten run to 6 league games, having secured back-to-back victories. Berekum Chelsea, on the other hand, remain in mid-table, sitting 9th in the league standings. Let's take a look at the full results of games played on Wednesday in the Ghana Premier League. Kerala United beat Legon Cities by 2-0. Adriana were held to a 2-2 draw at home against Young Apostles, and Dreams FC, thanks to a goal from Joseph Esso, beat Bechem United by 1-0. Let's do some more stories where Ghana, Nigeria, Jamaica and Trinidad and Tobago will converge in London in May 2025 to compete for the Unity Cup. The competition will feature 2 semi-final clashes, with the first taking place on Tuesday, May 27, where the Soccer Warriors of Trinidad and Tobago will face the Reggae Boys of Jamaica in the first ever Trini-Jim clash on UK soil. The second semi-final on Wednesday, May 28, will see West African rivals, the Super Eagles of Nigeria, take on the Black Stars of Ghana in the battle for regional supremacy. My colleague Billy Shen provides an in-depth wrap of what to expect in this four-nation tournament.
I think it will be a good preparation tournament for the Black Stars that would involve Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, and of course rivals Nigeria. I think a lot of people would want to watch what will happen between Ghana and Nigeria on the 31st of May. But the problem here would be that a lot of the Black Stars players who are playing in Europe would be almost finishing their season or would have just finished their season. And so the time frame for rest and for preparation for this kind of mini tournament would be a bit problematic for Otuado, and that would mean that he might be forced to select players who are usually the fringes or players who he hasn't called to the Black Stars for a while. One such player might be Andre Ayew, who of course hasn't been called to the Black Stars since the beginning of 2024 when Otuado took over as coach after the 2 friendlies that he managed. And so I think it would be a good run out, but the number of players that you would expect to be there might not be there in terms of the key players. And so you might see a lot of the fringe players actually playing.
Well, we still stay with the Black Stars because midfielder Elisha Owusu says that he was disappointed to miss out on the 2 World Cup qualifiers against Chad and Madagascar, but was pleased to see that the team managed 2 wins out of 2 games. The Black Stars beat Chad and Madagascar by 8-0 on a combined aggregate to remain top of their group when it comes to the 2026 World Cup qualifiers. The Auxerre midfielder pulled out of the squad very late after suffering an injury right before the matches.
For me, I was very, very disappointed because Ghana is a big part for me. I really love the national team, and I really committed to honor the Black Star jersey. And I always want to play and help the country, help the team. And I was really not happy because it was a really important game. But besides that, the team did really, really well. So I'm happy for the team, and I'm happy that we could win. And at the end of the day, that's the most important thing. Yeah, it was really, really good because long time we didn't have a clean sheet. A long time, in Accra, in Ghana, we didn't play really well. And now was big performances from the team. We didn't take goals, we scored a lot of goals. And I think the fan was so happy. The atmosphere was crazy, and it's so good that you can see that all the Ghanaians are behind our back, and it feels so good. The players, we need that, and we're so happy to give the performance that the country deserves.
Well, from the male national team, let's move to the women's national team, because the Black Queens, ahead of their 9-day tour in Senegal, have seen their squad released by Kim Las-Viokegren, and 21 players are expected to begin camping in Senegal. The training tour forms part of the GFA stepping up preparations for the 15th edition of the Africa Women's Cup of Nations, set to happen later this year. The training tour itself is scheduled to take place from April 1 to April 9, 2025, and my colleague Akosia J provides a comprehensive preview of their upcoming match.
So this friendly matches that the Black Queens will be playing against Senegal is very, very important, because the coach is new. He still needs to set the team up, and he has a number of players that he has to check out, see how they play, and see how that fits into what he wants the Black Queens team to be like. Unfortunately for him, he came in a time where the tournament is drawing very nice. So he gets the opportunity to watch them with their various clubs, but he also needs to understand the players as a unit. So playing against Senegal, which is good for the Black Queens moving forward into the competition, because you can see that in every window, the clubs we will be competing, or the countries we are going to be competing against, the South Africans, they are all getting matches to play. So yes, this is going to really, really help the team as they prep for the Women's African Cup of Nations. But the good thing about coach's selection this time round is that he made some additions. He brought in Grace Banwa, who is the best goalkeeper now in the Women's Premier League, and which is good, so that he gets to also check her out. Then Ernestina Abambila is going to be back in the team. Abambila has been in and around the team for a while now. Felicity Esiaku is also making a return to the team, which is very good. And so he gets the opportunity to check all of these players. But for our players who recently got transferred, like Stella Nyamiche, they'll be missing in action. But it's just a friendly, and it's also players to showcase themselves. So yes, this is a very good call from the FA, and I hope that the girls and then Kim get to learn a lot from these friendlies.
Well, let's head to Europe, where 5 weeks ago, after their pulsating first leg, Atletico Madrid and FC Barcelona meet for the final time this season, with a spot in the Copa del Rey final on the line. These two will meet for the fourth and final time in what has been an incredible season series, with their first three meetings ranked very high on the list of the best games in Spanish football this year. There has been plenty of entertainment, with the first leg ending 4-4 at the home ground of FC Barcelona. However, with Atletico Madrid set to host the second leg, head coach of FC Barcelona, Hansi Flick, believes that this match would serve the purpose of a final before the final.
It's a different match, because this will be a great chance for everyone. It's just like a final before the final, so it's like that, and so everyone want to reach this final, and the same with us. I think it's I have to say I think my team, the players, can be very proud about them, what they're doing. We're working hard every training, we're working hard every match, and what they achieved, it's really good. What they reach, it's not luck. It's they earned it, and this is a really positive thing, and I think they can.
That was boss of FC Barcelona, Hansi Flick, speaking there. But it's not just going to be action in Spain. There'll be matches in England, as Pep Guardiola has ruled his Manchester City supporters, urging them to keep the faith as the team navigates a tough period ahead of tonight's match against Leicester City. The manager called on fans to remain steadfast in their support, stressing its importance in helping the team achieve its objectives and climb back up the table.
When the fans can express a good moments or bad moments or feelings, is because the team and the club is alive. So the worst is when you cannot express. This is a club that the people can express, and they will be in touch, are in touch, will be in touch, the fans and with the club. Only I can say that we need them. Since the minute one, we need them. We are playing for the next season, be together in a Champions League, and we need them. So, and the people can think about it whatever they want, but I know how tough is Leicester. I'm impressed how they will play the last 2 games. They played really well against Chelsea and Aston Villa. They played really good in different ways. They are using new patterns, and they did really well. It's only I'm concerned, and we need them. We need them desperately, to achieve our success to be in the Champions League again.
That was Pep Guardiola bringing an end to the sports segment here on Hot Edition on DFM 92.7. My name is Ore Kwampafo. You can get updates on all of these games and more on our social media handles at 3 Sports GH.
In a 3FM 60-day Fit Start Challenge. Which team will come up tops? Will it be Team Comfort or Team Helen? Will age and tact act triumph? Or will youth and energy win? Call or WhatsApp on these numbers: 0532 300 927 or 0532 200 927. Now, to join Team Comfort or Team Helen and enjoy holistic wellness coaching, specialized diet plans, and cooking tutorials, thrilling exercises, challenges, and activities, plus many exciting rewards. 3FM Fit Start, sponsored by Daffy's Health and Beauty, Bill's Microfinance and UGL Premier, and supported by Blue Skies and the Ghana Medical Association. 3FM Fit Start, your health, your journey, your victory.
Wake up early every weekday because of you, to keep you on top of your game. Yeah!
You are at the center of our universe. That's why we make it a duty to serve you only the freshest, hottest news and entertainment. When you want it, where you want it.
Good morning, Ghana, Africa, and the rest of the wonderful world. Welcome to Sunrise on 3FM 92.7. Start your day well informed. Start with us on Sunrise on 3FM 92.7. Catch the all-new Sunrise Morning Show on 3FM 92.7 with me, Johnny Hughes, Helen Abiambofo. Weekdays from 5:55 a.m. to 10 a.m. only on 3FM 92.7.
3FM, your urban lifestyle radio.
Welcome back. This is Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. We're also on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and beyond. We're live on W 93.5 in Y and beyond. Keep your thoughts, views, comments, and opinions coming through. Now, state prosecutors have charged Daniel Owusu-Kranting, the prime suspect in the murder of the investigative journalist Ahmed Swale, with the offenses of abatement to commit murder and murder. This was after they informed the court of the decision to make changes to the initial charges. Chief Inspector Nana Efua Bamfo told the court that Daniel led 2 other alleged culprits currently at large to the home of Ahmed Swale.
The prosecution, led by Chief Inspector Nana Efua Bamfo, told the court on Wednesday, April 2, that Daniel Kranting led 2 other alleged culprits currently at large to the home of Ahmed Swale, where he was eventually shot and killed by unknown assailants. Daniel Kranting is now facing a charge of aiding and abetting 2 others at large to commit murder and murder. Outlining the brief facts of the case, the prosecution indicated that tensions escalated in June 2018 when former Asin Central Member of Parliament, Kennedy Japan, broadcast images of Ahmed Swale on Net2 TV calling for retribution against the investigative journalists. After probing, Ahmed Swale later identified Daniel as the one who provided Kennedy Japan with his photographs and confronted him through a WhatsApp chat. After the brief fact was read, counsel for the accused person, Kofi Hackman, prayed the court to grant his client's bail, explaining that he had been in custody since March 12. But prosecution objected to the bail application, explaining that investigations were still underway and releasing him on bail would compromise it. They added that efforts were underway to arrest 2 other culprits at large. Presiding Judge Susan Yakote then remanded Daniel Osu-Kranton again into custody. He is to reappear before the court on April 17. Lord Edwasari, TVZ News, Accra.
As Lord Edwasari, our legal affairs correspondent there. Now, the Risk Communications Officer at the Veterinary Services Department, Dr. Benjamin Kisisasu, refused reports that there is an outbreak of African swine fever in the Savannah Regional Capital, Damongo. He says the last outbreak in the region was recorded in 2023. This year, however, some isolated cases were recorded in January and February in the Kwewo area. His comment comes in the wake of media reports stating that the disease has killed hundreds of pigs and is fast spreading in communities like Kantin, Atributu, Boroto, and Sori number 1. Now, he spoke earlier on News Central.
So there's nothing to fear. From our checks, this year, the case that we had was in January and February. Ghana is endemic for African swine fever, like the way when it comes to the human health, we are known for cholera. That every year we get cholera cases. So is African swine fever. Just to correct the public, African swine fever is different from swine flu. African swine fever doesn't affect humans. It is just a disease of economic importance. That means that if somebody puts his investment into a piggery production, into pig production, and this virus get into these pen house, it will wipe all of them. So farmers face a lot of losses. But in terms of, so somebody eats a killed slaughtered animal from this ones, no, you won't get any infection from it. But it's of concern because it can wipe away our pork industry or pig industry in the country, which is of concern. Just to make a clarification, the case of Savannah, Damongo, wasn't this year, it was 2023, which yesterday and this morning I've got into the media house, I've had a clarification, and they have accepted that it was a mistake.
I see.
It happened this year, but it happened in February, which was confirmed and was curtailed. And in March, no case. Yesterday, when we had the Damongo case, we wanted to be sure, so a team went back to ascertain. And still when they went, as of yesterday, not mortalities, they're not seeing any pigs dying and all those things. So we are happy to get this opportunity to tell the public that if you see your pigs dying, sick, call the nearest veterinary center. And just a bit of clarification, when there's an outbreak and alert, like the way that is in human health, for health and animal health, it is the Ministry of Food and Agriculture who will issue a statement on alert or an outbreak, and to be done upon the advice of the Chief Veterinary Officer of Ghana. So currently there is no such of that case. All the cases that we had in January and February were 1 cases. Yes, some pigs were
right. So you tell us that the Damongo case was not African swine fever. Was there or no, were there incidents?
It was African swine fever, but it didn't happen this year. It was 2023.
Yes, I understand. Hang on, Doc. What I'm asking is, you had indicated that some of your personnel went there to investigate the situation in Damongo. You ran some tests and then there was nothing. So is there any situation of mass deaths of pigs in Damongo?
No. So as this morning, the briefing from the district and the regional vet officer, they're not even seeing pigs dying. Farmers are not reported. They went to various farms. They have asked around. Nobody have reported of pigs dying the past 3 or 4 weeks, and after yesterday too. No, they are not sick. I told them that in case, and some of the residents were not happy about the news because it's going to affect their trade. People are going to stigmatize them, and we told them they should relax. It's part of our work. Once in a while, these issues will come up, and that's why we came there yesterday to find out. And we told them that today, media houses will give us a chance to clarify issue. So Damongo, as of this year, no outbreak. They not that they have mortality or they have pigs dying over there. No, not at all.
So that's the update from the Ghana Veterinary Services Division there. The District Chief Executive nominee for Akachi North District in the Volta region, Bless Kojo Katamani, has been giving an overwhelming approval by the Assembly members. All 18 members of the Assembly who voted this morning voted unanimously to confirm the nominee, who becomes the 4th DC for the district. Correspondent Faisal Abdul Idris has been giving us more details on what has been happening in the area.
Yes, you have done for me. Again, to our esteemed chiefs and traditional leaders, your wisdom and guidance remain invaluable in ensuring unity and progress in our community. I look forward to working closely with you to uphold our cherished values and traditions while driving development in every corner of our district. I would like to state that my administration will not countenance discrimination. To the good people of National and staff of the Assembly, I accept this role with a firm commitment to serve with integrity, dedication, and humility. I recognize the challenges that lie ahead. I also see great opportunities for growth and transformation. Together, we will prioritize education, healthcare, infrastructure, agriculture, and economic empowerment to uplift our people and create prosperous districts for all. As I see this position, I send a hand of partnership to all stakeholders, political leaders.
That's Faisal Idris's report. If you go on our page, Facebook page 3FM927, you see videos of this unanimous approval of this DC nominee earlier today. But education is a bedrock of development. But for pupils and teachers at Famkwa, MA, KG, and primary school in a deprived community in the German South municipality of the Bono region, learning has become a daily struggle. A recent rainstorm has caused severe damage to classrooms for basic 5 and 6, leaving the school in urgent need of government intervention. A report by Claude Kumi Ebisa.
Which occurred over 3 weeks ago, has forced over 50 children to continue their education in the cramped, muddy makeshift structure provided by a community member. With no immediate help in sight, the headmistress, teachers, and pupils are pleading for assistance.
It has become difficult for us. So now we use this place as a classroom, somebody's house. So when it happens like that, I went there and begged for the owner. And then we send them class 6 and class 5 there. In fact, teaching and learning is very difficult for us. That place, the people are plenty, so they cannot convene, but we have to force them to be at that class. So teaching and learning is not going on at all like previously.
Even though authorities have visited the school to assess the situation, the headmistress is, however, appealing for urgent interventions from governments, NGOs, and kind-hearted individuals to ameliorate the situation.
These are the structures we used. We don't have office where we put our books. Children, they don't have place to sit. So we are pleading to government, stakeholders, everybody to come to our aid immediately before the rain starts heavy.
A teacher at the school, Emmanuel Van Dijk, describes the situation as heartbreaking as they struggle to offer their best, but the environment is just not conducive.
As you know, we are in a remote places. They shouldn't just look back on us. They should turn their eyes to those of us who are in the remote areas like this. When it comes to the materials that we need as students and as teachers, to teach so that a good and a perfect educational instruction will be taking place
we find it very difficult. The structure in which we are living on is a very big challenge for us.
An affected people, Alfred Ocansey, shared his ordeal.
My problem is we need government to build our school for us, and our classroom too is small for us. And when we come to school, our shirt is dirty.
The call for help is loud and clear. With the rainy season intensifying, the fear for a total collapse grows daily. For now, pupils and teachers continue to endure the harsh conditions, hoping for a miracle. Claude Komi Ebisa.
As more news on 3news.com. Make some time and visit 3news.com. Join me at 10 p.m. on TV3 for Ghana Tonight. And also, it's going to be live on 3FM 92.7. Thank you so much for staying with us here on Hot Edition. On behalf of the rest of the team, we do appreciate your company. Do enjoy the rest of our program. The drive continues. Have a great evening.